Good day, my little story bugs. Today we will be reading stories of the worst things people have seen at weddings. Grab your popcorn and pray you don't have these experiences and can only read about them. If you have witnessed something crazy in a wedding, make sure to comment it down below. The more stories the merrier. Let's jump right in. What's the worst thing you've seen happen at a wedding? Story 1.
Best man starts off speech with, "I've seen the groom with a lot of girls over the years." You know the cliche speech where it goes on to say, "But you're the best for him," etc. etc. Turns out the bride and groom were dating long before the best man even became a friend. Essentially outed him as a degenerate cheater. She was super pissed. Story 2. Bride and groom got in a huge drunken fight after the rehearsal dinner. It escalated to include shouting and name-calling between both families. Then the wedding got cancelled the day of. Story 3. It started super late. It was super hot out. The future father-in-law was wasted and left before it started. He then showed back up in a red bathrobe and his gun. Cops got called. It was a whole thing. Oh, and then after the reception we were all trying to convince one of our friends not to drive. He insisted he was fine. Drove his truck into the river. Story 4. I went to a friend of mine's aunt's wedding. It was a second marriage for both of them, so they wanted something relaxed. They threw it on one of the family members' property and had all the guests do grueling manual labor to get the property ready for the wedding. We were literally landscaping in the Texas summer. I was climbing trees to hang lights. We laid sod. We laid down stone for a walkway. My friend's mom cooked food for days and made all of the floral arrangements. We were setting up tables and chairs, you name it. We worked from 6 a.m. until almost midnight for 3 days. Finally the wedding happens and it's beautiful. I was actually really proud of what we had done. It looked professional. We go to cut the cake and the couple is nowhere to be found. They just left without telling anyone and went back to their hotel. I was offended by that because we had worked so hard for them and they didn't even stay for the entire wedding. We never got a thank you or any appreciation for it. Other people were upset too and took their gifts back before leaving. Story 5. My brother's second wedding. For the first dance, the DJ played the wrong song for half a second before stopping and starting the right song. The bride disappeared for 2 hours afterwards because the wedding was ruined. Story 6. At my friend's wedding the flowers wilted, wedding cake ended up in the floor, and some guy wrecked his Corvette in the parking lot of the church. Single car accident. Ran over a tallish curb and screwed up the door pretty good, impaired probably. Story 7. Bride was dancing during the reception, fell and broke her left arm. Lots of pictures from the ER photographer went with them. When the doctor heard he'd be setting a bride's arm, he put on a suit. They worked hard to get the swelling down so she wouldn't have to have her brand new wedding ring cut off. Crazy. ETA, I was in the wedding party. I was 10, this was a long time ago. The bride was my aunt. The fall happened after dinner. Before they left for the hospital the cake was quickly brought out for the bride and groom to cut. Everyone went on partying after they left. I haven't seen the pics since she got them back from the photographer. I remember pics of her and the doctor in the suit, my uncles in their tuxes doing wheelies in wheelchairs, and her red-rimmed eyes while cutting the cake. Story 8. To begin with, there were sustained 40 below zero F temps, so a lot of guests did not attend at the last minute. The Mo and best man, who had just met the day before, disappeared for a bit and the bride searched and found that they had used the groom's parents' van as a place to have sex. Problem was that Mo had just given birth to a baby a few weeks before and she was hemorrhaging. Bride left with Mo to go to the ER. In the meantime, a huge percentage of the guests started getting violently ill. As it turned out, the beef was tainted. The health department shut down the caterer some days later, and all guests had to be contacted to see who ate the beef. This is all first-hand factual info. I was there. I lived this. Thank God I ate the chicken. The couple divorced 18 months later. Story 9. This happened at my own wedding reception. My mother's best friend just got out of a sloppy divorce. Truly horrible. She proceeded to get blind drunk. During the speeches, she gets up from her seat, completely blacked out, throws up all over her table. She proceeded to piss herself and pass out on said table and flipped it. In the fall, her dress managed to rip and she was completely naked on the floor. We had first responders as guests at our wedding, so they managed to get her wrapped up in a tablecloth and carry her outside to an ambulance that showed up rather quickly. Story 10. I was at my male cousin's wedding. I was like 12 to 14 years old. Idiot me goes up when they call for all the unmarried young men. Suddenly there's a thing flying through the air and my competitive sports instincts kick in and I jump for it. It was the bride's garter belt. I had no clue what was happening. My family then proceeded to pressure me into going up in front of everyone and putting it on the leg of the late 20-something-year-old woman who caught the bouquet. I was a very shy kid, so I was so mortified. But everyone thought it was hilarious. The woman was also embarrassed but went along. My memory is that someone told her how old I was and she got this oh shit look. I put it up to her mid-calf before I ran away blushing. When I got back to my table my mom was pissed at me because I was too young to catch the garter. Well, why didn't you say something when I went up there, Mom? Story 11. I was the matron of honor at my BFF's wedding. Her dad was semi-recently married to his fourth wife. So, bride's stepmom but only in name. She and the bride didn't get along, but were surface level cordial to each other. Stepmom is super weird about dollar. Because she had none, and married the dad for his. She was very upset about how much he spent on this wedding for his only daughter. So upset apparently, she showed up in a floor-length, full-on white wedding gown of her own. The wedding coordinator sees them walk in, pulls me aside and lets me know this bitch just walked into the cocktail hour before the ceremony in a goddamn wedding dress and asks if I think the bride should be made aware or if we should just hope she doesn't notice until after the vows etc. I told her I would take care of it, and did. We did the getting ready pics in the bridal suite, and after she was all ready to go and it was 15 minutes till showtime, I took the bride out to the patio overlooking her gorgeous venue, and watched her guests scurrying to find their seats, and we shared a secret cigarette like we were teenagers again. And I told her that I saw her stepmother in the lobby, and that I unceremoniously poured an entire glass of red wine down the front of her dress. Story 12. Best man showed up to the reception whacked out on something. It was more than just drunk. Proceeded to make an ass out of himself, and the groom babysat the guy all night to make sure he didn't do anything too terrible and missed his own reception. What the guy did when he wasn't being watched: made crude remarks to groom's mom, whom he had known for better than 15 years, sexually assaulted the bride's aunt, like crotch grabbed her, made uncomfortable observations about groom's cousin and her developing womanhood, made people leave due to his behavior and consequent assholery post-rejection, was told about that afterwards, and attempted to grope the bride's chest 5 minutes after he arrived, which is when the groom stopped drinking and knew it was going to be a problem. There were likely other things that were highly inappropriate that were never mentioned. But wait, there's more. After unsuccessfully trying to take his keys away, the jackass sneaks away from his babysitters and tries to drive home, misses the road and instead drives around the building between the trees and into the field where the RVs are parked. Misjudged the car's width and caused a ton of damage to bride's cousin's trailer when he hit it with his mom's car that he'd borrowed. They finally get the keys away from him, and at this point the bride is aware of what's happening and offers help. The groom and the bride's little brother were trying to hide it from the bride so it wouldn't ruin her night. Her family sees how upset she is by what's happening that each one that sees her crying vows to beat the hell out of the guy for her. She constantly escorts family away to try to de-escalate. He fights with the cab driver and the cab driver refuses to take him. After an hour of him causing a huge scene in front of the hall, the bride's uncle walks over and calmly talks to him, like think laid back Hawaiian Island calm or smooth jazz kind of vibe, and basically talks him into the cab. Bride and groom pay for the cab and pay the driver more in a tip than the fare. When he was finally gone, it was time to pack up everything. The reception was over. The bride ate a piece of her wedding cake in a tiny back room sobbing while the DJ cleaned up. Missed the father-daughter dance, the mother-son dance, the bride and groom's first dance, bouquet toss, garter toss, and the fun of getting hammered with friends and family. Edit to add, this all happened in a span of about 3 hours. The reception started at like 7. It was a week after the destination part, and the best man showed up a couple hours later and was loaded into the cab by 1:30 a.m.
Alright my story bugs, before we end the reading session I just need to comment on the last story. The couple basically didn't have a wedding at all. It would make me extremely angry if my entire day was messed up babysitting a man-child. What I want to know is why the family thought it was proper for the groom to babysit and no one else. They could have had their night be wonderful at the cost of one nice guest babysitting. I really just can't understand the whole dynamic and how that even happens. An event from 7 to 1 a.m. and you couldn't think of another way to get the man to leave. Seriously. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you have any stories you want to share with the family, please comment down below. I think I want to call everyone listening to these videos a family because at this point, we're all going to be sharing opinions, laughter, anger, and so much more together. I hope to continue doing that, so if you would like to be a part of this glorious family, make sure to like and subscribe for more. See you later my beautiful story critters.